All right, this is going to be the greatest inappropriate Earl ever. I've been trying to get this man on for a long time. You know, he's a busy guy, and he's a late night legend at the Comedy Store. Does the audience warm up for Jimmy Kimmel, and probably really my only true friend at the Comedy Store.
Yeah.
You know, there's a lot of bullshitters up there.
Oh yeah.
Palmers and Gladhanders, you know. Don Barris is the real deal. You know, you got to give him that. You know, you might not appreciate his abrasiveness at times. I do, which is why we've always gotten along. I think in the 5 or 6 years we've known each other, we've never really had an argument. So please put your hands together for the creator, the most creative guy at the Comedy Store. You know, Windy City Heat. You got a sequel coming out. It had people fly all over the country to come to the Windy City Heat weekend, which, you know, I can't get people to go to Burbank for a show. This man is just a comedy, not just a Comedy Store treasure, but a comic treasure in LA. Don Barris, thank you for coming.
Oh, thank you, Earl. Thank you. And thanks for saying I'm your friend. I like that.
That's legit, man. I mean,
well, I feel the same way. Hey, is your back hurting?
Yeah, my back hurts. Sometimes I stand up, and quick shout out if you noticed, Don, I have a pair of brass knuckles on the microphone.
I did notice that, and that's for a big podcast you have coming up.
I did. I'd like to thank my only sponsor, Stephen Piercy.
Wait a minute. Did he tell you that he's going to be your sponsor, or did he just give you those and you're claiming he's your sponsor?
Well, you know, it's a fine line of, you know, I'm just trying to promote his venture now that he's not singing in Rat.
He's not.
He left the band because he can't stand the drummer, which I know you're in a band and you can't stand the former drummer.
With drummers before.
So you and Piercy probably should have come in together.
We draw different crowds, but it wouldn't have been bad.
Yeah, but I think you're like me. I appreciate music that I don't necessarily like. I still admire it. And although I wouldn't say you're like a Rat fan, I think you would kind of be jazzed talking to him.
You know what? I'll tell you this. If you want my honest opinion, there is, let's call it the hair band era. Would you claim that Rat would fit into that?
You know, by their own design, but you know, when they first started, they were kind of heavy. Not like.
Well, I'm not saying that they weren't heavy through the whole thing, but I just think that in that 80s realm, there seemed to be a lot of bands that had fancy dancy hairdos, and a lot of bands became popular during that time, including Rat with their big hit. Round and round, what comes around goes around.
I'll tell you why.
See, no, I think that's a great song. And for that era, in that genre, I think they're spectacular. I have nothing against Rat, but there isn't many types of music that I don't like.
I mean, you are, without a doubt, the most knowledgeable person about music. I mean, I'm just knowledgeable about, for the most part, 80s metal, and that's it. You could talk about the Beatles, the Eagles, Kiss, you know, Backstreet Boys. I mean,
not much about the Backstreet, but you know what? I'll tell you this. What I actually did at one point, I really studied Billboard magazine. I really got into that, and I got into, you know, charted hits. And I think realistically, there's just a few bands that I really love to a point where I love every cut on an album. The Beatles being one. In my iTunes, I will edit out a lot of songs off albums. I will only take a couple songs from every album and I put it into a master folder, but I will have every kind of hit, every kind of B-side that became popular. Anything that was popular by a band, I try to put in their folder in chronological order in my iTunes. You should sometime come by and look at my iTunes and maybe get some of it out of there.
It would probably put mine to shame. You know,
How many songs do you have?
Not that many, about 6,000.
Yeah.
How many do you have?
I have like 52,000, but I haven't even put everything in there yet. I had a real fuck up with my computer. I one time was transferring and trying to back up things, and one time I backed up a external hard drive into another hard drive, but I should have taken the one. I mixed the hard drives up. I shouldn't have taken the one from the one and dropped it in there. And so I lost a lot of songs that I had put in there. And I was told by the people at iTunes that here's a way to get everything back in there. And I did it that way. But it doubled and tripled every song.
Right.
And I can't just go through and delete everyone. I had to go through, actually take all the songs, take one song, put it in a folder, and then delete all 3 songs. Then put the song back. While it was playing, I couldn't do it any other way. While that song was playing, then I had to empty the trash and then it would work. So it has been a pain in the fucking ass to reorganize my iTunes. And I still have to go through a lot of things to go.
I mean, I can't. I've done that before, but not nearly. I'm just, maybe on 100 songs.
But I mean, but the thing is, I have nothing against the type of music you like. I love the music that you like. I wouldn't go in deep and know every single track. Tell Steven, I'm sorry, I don't do that.
Well, I mean, but he has a great history. Like, and I read his book. Well, I read his book. I mean, he started in San Diego, basically doing music open mics. He founded a band, and he saw Van Halen once at the Whiskey, and he's like, "We got to come up here." So he basically recruited, some dudes, childhood friends. They came up here, lost a few guys. He added a few guys, and they would sit at the edge of the stage at the Whiskey and see Van Halen and go, "This is what I want to do." And, he did it. He got in at the Whiskey because he gave David Lee Roth a joint.
Really?
And they struck up a friendship, and he started fucking the booker at the Whiskey. And
it's always a way.
I mean, I tell you, I don't know if you would enjoy the whole book, but for me, being a struggling comic or whatever I am, it was neat to hear his stories. And I'm open to, all the bookers in this town are dudes, so I'm not sure. Are they? Well, you have Tommy at the Comedy Store, Jamie at the Laugh Factory, Jamie at the Improv, Bob at the Ice House. So I'm not that desperate to fuck those guys.
Well, that's probably pretty good. You probably get a bad reputation.
It's one of the few benefits of family, having a few family dollars in the bank account. I don't have to...
I got to tell you something. Coming up here to the Kennedy compound, I'm a little disappointed. You're green TV, and you can tell Stephen Percy's going to be here because you have 2 Rat CDs on the table and his book right in between it. Well, how many albums did Rat put out?
Well, here's the deal. My configuration I have now was when Tawny Katane came in. That's her on both covers. That's her leg. That's her leg. That's her on the Out of the Cellar album cover. And that is her leg on the EP, which is what got them signed to Atlantic Records.
Really?
And it's a great story,
Did you talk to her about that?
She was awesome.
I bet she was.
She was, the only thing she wouldn't talk about was OJ.
Why?
I guess according to Dave Taylor, who set up the interview, I mean, I'm sure she wouldn't have come down to my house,
Did Gail have anything to do with it? They became somewhat...
Gail was here, too, because I thought that would be neat for Gail to meet her childhood idol.
Was it her childhood idol?
Well, maybe idol's a strong word.
It is strong.
Childhood...
someone she looked up to as a kid.
And so they got along great. They had a girls' weekend recently.
Really?
Where Gail went to Tawny's house and where she lives. And
did Gail fuck OJ?
It's possible. Probably not.
So anyway, you were saying something about David Taylor. Was that one of the rules, the stipulations, that she would come here, but she didn't want to talk about OJ?
No. I brought his name up. I because it was really the genesis of, hey, why don't I get Tawny Katane on this podcast? Was I was getting a new radiator. I'm walking down Melrose. I hit shuffle on my iPod, and I swear to God, this is a true story. And the Rat song "Back for More" starts. Out of the thousands of songs I have, that starts. I look up, and I'm standing in front of the restaurant that the video was filmed in.
Really?
It's crazy. And as I walked in after a very long walk from the mechanic's place, I turn on the TV, and the "Here I Go Again" video. For Whitesnake, where she was doing the splits on the Jaguars.
Now, I wanted to ask you, did she do any videos for Rat?
She did. She was in Back for More, with which is a great video. And you would love it because it's shot all around the rainbow, the whiskey. They drive by the Comedy Store, and Tommy Lee and Nikki Sixx are in it because they were roommates with Robin Crosby, who died of AIDS. So, but that was Tawny's first love.
Oh, really?
When she got up to leave, where my Jack Lambert framed picture is now, was a beautiful picture of Robin Crosby. I mean, I'm as straight as a pole, man, but he was a good-looking dude. And she literally froze where I am right now and started crying.
Really?
And I gave it to her.
Did you really?
Yeah. She was so nice. It's weird that you would think that like someone like you or me, her, like these big, here you and I are big macho guys or whatever. And
hell yeah, I am.
We probably have a first love that, we still think about or I don't know.
Right. I know what you mean. It's like everybody goes to that. But do you consider yourself a macho guy?
I mean, not macho like, I'll
tell you this. I got a chance to see you with, let's say, the Gail incident. Does your audience know about Gail? Do you remember?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, we don't talk about like the breakup and stuff just because I won't do that. And I know I'm not saying you're asking me. I would prefer her to be here.
Right. Exactly. And I'm not talking about that at all.
Oh, I know.
won't do that. But what I'm saying is I'm telling you that I saw you because you're kind of sometimes almost like a robot. You're a funny guy, but as far as things go, you're almost like an alien that has no emotions. And I finally got a chance to see some emotions.
Well, that's the way I was raised, though.
Yeah, of course.
My dad was. It's funny. My dad was RoboCop, basically.
Was he?
And my mom was very had a lot of skeletons in her closet from her family life. So I was just raised to keep it all in.
Really? It's funny when you say RoboCop. One of the craziest things ever. And this is, I've mentioned this on other podcasts, and that's the thing that's really tough about everybody having podcasts. And first of all, I didn't know that you had wanted me to be on your podcast.
Forever. Before. But I was embarrassed.
Why would you ever be embarrassed?
Because I know just through the last couple months of trying to get people down here, it's like, hey, I know you're busy. I mean, you're probably the busiest guy I know. You got to do the Kimmel thing 4 days a week. You got to do the Comedy Store basically 7 days a week. So it's like,
and I have 3 podcasts.
Right. And, your movies.
Show. What's that?
Your movies you're trying to get made.
And trying to put all that together. But
what are your 3 podcasts, just so people who might not be familiar?
Well, the big 3 podcasts, and if you're not familiar with that, that's the cast of Windy City Heat, which is kind of the thing that got me noticed. Jimmy Kimmel produced it, and it became kind of a cult type of thing that a lot of people liked, including a lot of celebrities, which was really nice because there's nothing better than to have a celebrity come up to you and talk about how much they like your movie or something like that. And that was really a thrill because a lot of cool people came up. And so we do that podcast still. That's coming towards an end. August 15th, we're shooting something that it'll be kind of the final scene possibly of a movie, a 8-episode TV show, or maybe it's just a sizzle reel. But we're getting some kind of big celebrities are going to be part of this, and who knows where it's going to go. But we're just going to shoot something, see where that happens. So that era of the big 3 could be over. I've also got my Simply Don podcast, which is just, you've been on that.
Yeah, it was great.
It was really, and by the way, it was really a great show because not only talk about your family, but Jordan was interesting on it, telling us about
Jordan Lee, the great Jordan Lee.
Jordan Lee, has he been on your show?
He was on an episode with Danish and O'Neill where we did a UFC recap, but that was at the time where I only had 2 mics, so he was kind of a little muffled.
Yeah, he came up with some great stories because he had been working with Shelley Winters. So she was telling us he was telling us some stories that she had told him about Marilyn Monroe and things like that. So that whole show was really interesting. We talked music because I love all kinds of music. Anyway, so I got the Simply Don thing, and then we've got the Ding Dong Show. And that's a podcast, and we have them all lined up. Let's just say we're having a hard time with our current producer. So we've got that going. I was asking you something about
Gail.
no, but you see, not really Gail. I guess what I was going to try to point out. Why would you be afraid to ask me? You literally, something that I felt was really fun and really different and a great way to close the Comedy Store. And at one point, some of my best memories of the Comedy Store was when there was a manager that never closed, and the Comedy Store was part gambling hall, part band, and it was like maybe the best time ever at the Comedy Store.
It's like we'd do
We'd do
BKO for like
4 hours.
3 or 4 hours, and there'd be times where I was gassed, and I'm in shape. I mean,
yeah.
and I'm not even really moving. I mean,
right. It was just crazy fun, and it was, and you came in, and I started this thing, and I was starting to have fun with it, but I was working with Brody, who claims to be positive, but there could be some negative sides to him, and it was hard to work with him. You came and took over the drums, and you were there all the time. You made that thing happen. You made it happen.
Well, you let me do it, so.
Yeah, but I'm just saying, if it wasn't for you, I couldn't do it myself. I could sing the songs, but it wasn't the same. It wasn't the same. So you made it happen. And because of that, it became something really, really fun.
It still is.
It still is, but we don't do it as much. I do have to tell you, I'm going to write some new songs. And because when the guys come out in August, I want to have some new material, some new songs for them.
But like the guy from Pittsburgh who's in town now, that guy who looks like Palomalu.
Right. What is his story?
He's just a comedy fan. And like he came last night, and I think he's coming tonight specifically just to see the band.
Yeah.
So
he had a real good time, and he said some nice things on Facebook to me today. And it's just all in all, it's a fun time. But I'll tell you this, you're a big reason why. And at the beginning of the show, you talked about, there are a lot of fuckheads there. There's a lot of fucking guys. You turn your head, they'll stab you in the back.
Oh, yeah.
You're one of the guys that has been pretty fucking loyal.
Oh, well,
and a pretty good guy. Absolutely. But as a whole, I could rattle off a bunch of people that aren't.
Oh, yeah. But,
I'm not going to, because you know what? They do their thing, and it's funny to watch them because I've been at the Comedy Store so long. You start seeing people, and they may change names and the people change, but they're the same type of person. The people that get a little something, they think, oh, I am on my way to stardom now. Yeah, well, and it never happens that way.
Well, I always say, no matter what show you're on, it ain't going to be on the air forever.
No. So. And you got to start planning out how to do it. That's the reason I'm very happy you're doing the podcast. How long did I say you should do this?
Oh, probably 2 years. But I was like, I don't know the technical aspects of it. So I must thank Ari Manis, who's another guy up there who gets it. He's basically like a quieter Red Band. He's a really funny comic, but he's like very unassuming. He bought all the gear, I bought it. I just said, go on my Amazon account and just show me what I have to, buy. And he bought everything. He hooked it all up. He showed me how to edit, what little editing I do.
Right.
And
how do you edit?
Well, basically, I don't edit the podcast. Like from that intro to when I say, Don, thanks for coming. I leave everything in, and then I put the music provided by Stevie Rochelle from Tough. He's nice enough to give me, because I was worried about, I think I heard you one night talking with, I think, Ari Shafir about, Ari Scheifer.
Right, okay.
He's one of them
Jewish
Jews.
guy who ran to China to try to make it in show business.
Them Jews. But you guys had a great conversation about music, and like ideally, I would have loved to play Rat.
Oh, absolutely.
And Poison and whatnot. But
what I would love to be able to do, because I have so much music, is to have my own radio show.
Yeah.
Where I just put out like, okay, tonight we're going to go through Rat.
Right.
I'll play all songs and I'll tell stories about Rat. I would love to be able to do that. But at one point, someone's going to screw you.
Yeah. So I did like when Stephen Piercy's here, I guess I could just ask him, hey, can I put on an Arcade, which is his band after Rat? I mean, I guess I get it.
You know what? He may not even be able to control that.
Yeah, I mean, that's the crazy thing.
Because I'm sure the record company has a lot to say, and because he's on the show, it may send up a red flag. They may see that and they may look in to see if you're playing a song. So I would definitely ask him before you do it.
So, yeah, I mean, I would love to play different, but Stevie he's awesome. He gets me some of my 80s guests. And
how does he do that?
Well, he used to be in a band, and so he knows everyone. And his website, Metal Sludge, is it's like the Drudge Report, but for hard rock.
Why do I keep getting the vibe that even though today I'm here doing your podcast, you're looking right through me for Stephen Percy?
Oh, not at all. Not at all. But I'm friends with you. Like,
Hell yeah.
I mean, we could talk for the next 5 hours about, because you were at the store. I mean, I think I may have gone up there once or twice, in the late 80s. But I didn't really, I mean, the first guy I ever saw there was Angel Salazar.
Check it out, man.
And see, to me, he was the guy from that movie, The Wildlife. And
really?
I was, because that's one of my favorite cult movies. It was basically a ripoff of Fast Times, but with Sean Penn's brother, Chris Penn.
Right. Wasn't the exact same thing.
But I mean, you could tell they were going for a Spicoli type.
Right.
It's casual, man. And Angel Salazar was his little buddy. And
check it out.
Now you have an interesting story about if you're fans of the movie Scarface. I don't think a lot of people know Pacino's character was kind of based on Angel Salazar, at least the dialect.
One of the things that I had heard about Angel Salazar, his role was much bigger in the movie Scarface. But when he was around there, Al Pacino started watching him and started kind of mimicking him because that seems like the voice that he wanted to do, and he was pretty good. And it sounded so much like Angel. I think producers kind of cut Angel's part down a lot.
Because if you watch that movie, he's in almost a lot of the scenes.
Right. And he just doesn't say anything. Right. And that's why.
And Stephen Bauer, Manolo, he's at the Comedy Store from time to time.
Yep. And he's kind of a pussy hound, I'll say that.
Well, I mean, I don't want to mention the comic's name because I think we both love her, but and I think she is spoken for. So but wasn't Mr. Bauer maybe possibly intermingling with a female friend of ours?
Yes. And I remember one time when Ika was in the Ding Dong Show and Mary Jane, they were there doing something, and that girl was with him, and he was like, "Hey, look at this." I mean, just.
Oh, they're animals up at the store. I mean...
Yeah, well, this guy was an animal, too.
I mean, every girlfriend I've ever had or lady friend I was whatever with up there, to see the animals hug her for an extra second to feel the tits.
Yeah. Absolutely.
It's like...
I've never been that person.
That's my one rule. I never touch anyone else's woman.
I never, ever do that, just for the simple reason that I wouldn't want anybody doing that to my girl.
Well, it's just I won't even go out with someone's ex-girlfriend. Like, it's because in my mind, like, it's, you always wanted to go out with her then, type of thing.
Do you know anybody that's hit on somebody that you used to go out with?
Oh, I saw people hit on Gail in front of me. Brian, I won't mention names, but pretty big name comic was like all over one night after we did the band. And I'm like, hey, man, I'm a fan, but if you want your next set to be through a straw, you better unhinge, bro.
Really? He's pretty tough. He's a martial artist. I think he's like a black belt.
I think that my anger, he'd have to kill me. When I'm mad, and I think you're the same way. I've seen you maybe once when those three black dudes took the outdoor bar patio's tip jar, and you got in like this weird karate stance.
I wasn't a karate stance. It's like what I feel good at.
Yeah, but you hunch.
Because I'm ready to lunge forward, and I'm ready on both sides. I've been in a few fisticuffs there. I remember when I first got to the store, there was a guy that was pissing on the wall at the Comedy Store. And I remember taking him by the shirt and throwing him out onto Sunset. But I mean, really almost picking him up and tossing him there. And he did a roll into Sunset, and people were pretty impressed by that.
Well, you're a fucking strong guy, man. Yeah. I wouldn't want to fight you. I mean, I'm more smoke and mirrors. I'm not nearly as strong as I look. I mean, I think you are as strong as you look.
I'll tell you this. Last night, Mini Dean, I was walking into the main room to watch Brody Stevens. And Mini Dean, for some reason, I think he thought I was going to go after some girl that he was there with. And he tried to push me away. And I literally just went like that with my left hand. And he went up against the wall. I mean, the whole audience, oh. And I felt bad, but I really didn't feel bad.
And Minnie Dean, for those, I don't think anyone knows who he is on this podcast. He's just another one of the Comedy Store caricatures.
A guy that hangs out there because he has nothing else to do and was kind of accepted through an ex-general manager, Dean Gelber, who kind of let him stay there, and he just made himself welcome. But nobody really liked him because he's as annoying as you can possibly be.
Well, that's the thing at the store is... if you try too hard, you build up your annoyance factor and you end up hurting yourself, from what I can see.
That's the reason what I try to do. I asked, let me go on the last comic. That way nobody can say, oh, he's taking my spot. He's doing this little baby shit, And even then, I still get shit from people. But I do my job. I think every night I go out there and I entertain the people that are there. A lot of people can't entertain that. By the way, did you see this?
Oh, the Tracy Morgan?
Tracy Morgan. I wonder how he's doing now.
Well, I'm sure of a lot of comics are getting that RIP tweet ready just in case, like they were tight.
Is it that bad?
I mean, I think he's in critical condition.
I thought he was in serious condition, but, who knows?
But, on Twitter, like when John Pignette died, and I never worked with him, but he was a pretty nice guy from what I understand.
Absolutely. I heard the same thing.
All these people, oh, you were so funny. You were great to work with. And one guy was telling me how bad he smelled. It's like, you didn't like him. You were just you're making fun of him a week ago.
Yeah, it's one of those things. I just never, ever critically injured in fatal wreck. Yeah.
Oh, wow. The Improv. I know that guy.
Do you?
Well, apparently, I don't think a lot of people were wearing safety belts, and he was in like a party bus.
Van, right? Well, I'll tell you this. I will say one thing about Tracy Morgan. I know that you mentioned at the beginning, but just to kind of clarify, I do the audience warm-up for Jimmy Kimmel, and I've done it from the very beginning. And I will say this. That guy is consistently funny every single time he's ever been on the show. And that's pretty hard to do. I mean, really, really funny. So.
And I hear he's a nice guy. Like, I hear my friend Roger, who's worked with him, said he'll still have barbecues at his house and invite like the less fortunate comics. Like,
right.
That's pretty neat that he's
a good guy. And I think that that's what you have to do. If you're in a position to help, you have to kind of do that because you have to give back. I've always heard you have to give back to the comedy world.
Oh yeah, I mean, it raises your frequency, man. I'm into the Tony Robbins.
Are you really? Is that what they say?
Well, if you give back, you'll get it tenfold in return. But you shouldn't give with that expectation of if you said, Earl, can I borrow $100? I should give it to you because I want to. Not, well, I know Don will give my DVD to the Kimmel promoter or whatever, Which you did many years ago for me, and it's probably a mistake looking back. I probably,
well, for me, it was nothing.
But I mean, I was
because all you do, here you go. This is a comic. I know him. Is he funny? Yes, he is. Boom.
Well, I hope they didn't look at it.
Then it's out of my hands.
Oh, of course. But
and that's the way it goes.
I just I feel kind of bummed out because I know a lot of people who work on Arsenio's show, and that was kind of out of left field that got canceled, and
that happened pretty quick, didn't it?
Yeah, and my friend's like the lead head writer on it, and Owen Smith, who's awesome dude.
Was he on it?
I think he just came on board. I don't know if he was on there from day one, but he always gets back on his feet pretty.
Yeah.
What I liked about Arsenio is he gave my friend who's the head writer, or one of the head writers, he's a road comic for the last 30 years. I mean,
right.
He is the typical playing a one-nighter in Nevada for $100. Arsenio put him on TV. Like, he gave him a stand-up spot.
It was I don't know if you saw this. It was like a real touching moment. Did you see that one video? And I don't know if you saw it. It became a YouTube sensation where there's a guy that was playing guitar outside, like, I don't know, a Walmart or something like that. It might have been a drugstore. I don't remember exactly what it was. But then some guy came out and in a soulful voice started singing with him. And then a rapper came in. And then what this did is it became an internet sensation because the manager of the store took the video. Now, Jimmy has him on this show, and they bring out Aloe Black, you know, the guy that did that song, I'm the man, I'm the man. You know that song?
I mean, not very updated.
Anyway, pretty popular guy right now. They brought him into it, but they had all these guys walk into it. And I talked to the guy after, and I mean, it's just like, I watch this guy the greatest day of his life because he seems like he's, if not homeless, pretty close to being homeless. Missing a few teeth, completely bald hair. But boy, and he was so freaking happy. He was so happy, you know, and it's those type of things, you know. It was an entertaining thing that night on Jimmy Kimmel Live, and all these people got around it. They had other rappers that came in, big name people. But boy, people just don't know, like Arsenio. You just go like this, and you can change someone's life.
Oh, yeah. I mean, you know, Rob Schneider did me many favors, so that he didn't have to.
Oh, well. But, you know, you also have to look at this. Rob Schneider did something because he needed you too.
Oh, yeah, you know, but it's just, you know, I take the view of there's thousands of comics you could have helped, and,
right,
you know, thank you for,
it's like one of the things that I really, really felt great about. Sarah Silverman one time gave me a spot on the Sarah Silverman program. And what I played, I was the audience warm-up for a show within that show called Cookie Time. Now, she has been around comedy forever. She has, how many people could she have given that to?
Right.
And she gave it to me. And she made such a big thing about how great I did on it. And she made such, like, all the producers, I've never felt better about that. And I will always feel that Sarah Silverman did me something really, really great then. I mean, and I will always look at Sarah with really kind eyes because of that. Because I would have been probably one of the last people that she knew, because she had friends that needed that work. I had a job.
Yeah, but you are the best warm-up guy in town. I've been to a lot of shows, and you know, I've never seen anyone do it like you do it. You know?
Thank you. I wish somebody at Jimmy Kimmel knew that.
Well, you know, if they didn't like the job you're doing, you wouldn't be, you know, they'd get...
That's not the way they even make it sound. Well, I think they'd take it if you weren't friends with Jimmy, you sure as hell wouldn't be here.
Well, hey, it helps to have friends, man.
Yeah, but still.
But, you know, you got a lot of things coming up. And
well, I mean, I thought a long time ago, I'm very, very fortunate because I was put in a position that I have my rent paid for. I have my overhead taken care of on a job that I don't work that much per week. You know, total time, I could say a figure, but it's like probably under 10 hours driving there, coming back, doing the job, 10 hours a week. And I make enough money to take care of myself. But that was years before I could ever get like that.
And driving with you is unbelievable to go there. Back in the old days when it was like an amusement park ride.
Oh, because of my car?
Because your passenger, well, and because of your, let's just say, aggressive style of driving. I mean, I was scared to I was like, hey man, I'll meet you there. And you're like, oh, meet me at the Comedy Store. And the passenger seat in your old car was a little wobbly. So
there was a bolt that was out. And since I didn't sit on that side, I didn't really want to fix it.
Yeah, it's kind of like me and the air conditioning here. You know,
it's the air conditioning, the green TV, a lot of things about the Kennedy compound over here.
Well, I'm working on sprucing up the place, buying the, better podcast gear.
Oh, yeah. And I'll tell you one thing you should get microphone stands.
Well, yeah, you're right. I mean,
And I'll tell you why. Because it adds to it. I would even get a big poster of what your logo is.
I don't really. Oh, I have a.
You have that shot that I've
picture
seen.
of me, right?
Right.
I guess that's a logo.
Yeah.
And put it like right.
Put it somewhere and maybe take it down after, or put it right over there.
Because your setup is unbelievable.
Yeah, but it's at a secret location.
Oh,
so.
yeah. I mean, when I go to your setup,
right?
It's
no, because and my feeling was, when we got into that studio, we had been working with Adam Carolla. And Adam Carolla, they had a whole TV show that put his studio together. So it was like a regular radio studio. And when I went in there, I didn't want to take a big step down. So I did a lot of things to make sure. And we had some really great fans that came through and helped donate money. I will never, ever say that we didn't get a break with that, because that was cool. And within 1 month, we raised enough money to start a whole new studio.
Oh, your fans are amazing. I mean, they even helped me. Like,
did they?
I had, I'm not the most computer literate guy. So long story short, I had about 4 hours worth of podcasts on this disc, and I said fragment disc. I didn't know what that meant. So I hit yes, and it erased both episodes. And they were really fun episodes. So I gave it to a fan of yours, Ding Dong Show fan who goes there a lot, Charlie. I don't know his last name, and he recovered probably about 40% of the, and it was just, you don't even know me. You're fans of Don's, and they were still helping me.
Well, I think that these guys, they just love to be part of something, and that's what's great. And I'll tell you this, it's great about the podcast world. I was kind of told something recently, and it does make sense, that the first wave of people, the people like Adam Carolla, the people like Joe Rogan, they got out there when it was at a level that nobody really knew about it. And they built up fans because they were doing things that you could not do on any kind of other radio.
Right.
What would have really made the podcast world crazy, when Howard Stern was negotiating with Sirius the last time, there was a real thought that they were going to build a podcast studio for him.
Oh, wow.
And he was just going to put out podcasts. And they must have put out the rest of the money. But boy, that would have made the podcast world even bigger.
Oh, yeah. I mean, Duncan Trussell, he's a big podcaster.
Yeah, all those guys that were with Rogan, Ari Shaffir, Sam Tripoli, all those guys got a chance to learn how to do the podcast by being on Joe Rogan's. Then they started their own. Then they went off and they did their own by themselves because they learned exactly how to do it. By the way, those brass knuckles are kind of cool. Tell the people about that again.
These are Stephen Piercy's Mic Knuckles. That's MIC Knuckles. And I think the website, these aren't in stores yet. I actually met Mr. Piercy at an undisclosed location and, bought a few. He gave me a few, which that's why I say he's a sponsor. He did, throw me a couple bones. And
Did he really?
He did, actually. I'm like, he was so nice. And I was like, hey, man, I'll buy them. No, man. He just gave me all these CDs. I mean, I already had them, but...
what did he give you? Did he sign them?
No, I didn't want to bug him. I was getting this surge of adrenaline, like, oh, will you take a picture with me? And I didn't want to, like, freak him out.
See, that's the thing. There's so many people that I wish I would have taken pictures of.
Yeah, no, I know. I just... he was nice enough to meet me at this place, and I just didn't. I wanted to go a little easy on the first meeting.
Right? Holy smokes! And then he's agreed to do your podcast on this upcoming week.
He doesn't do a lot of these things.
No,
and I'm sure he gets.
What big names have you had on?
I mean, not David Arquette is probably the biggest.
Yeah.
Tawny Katane, and to UFC fans, legendary Don Fry, who's probably the #1 commercial actor right now. He's in all those. He's in the things with the William Shatner, with the biker commercial, and he's Priceline, I guess it is, and he's in Allstate commercials. He's got a great look.
Is it the guy that comes to the Comedy Store all the time?
No, that's Roddy Piper.
I know Roddy.
Oh, Josh Barnett. No.
Is it wrestler or
He's an MMA guy. He fought in the UFC when like literally guys were coming to the octagon in hoodies from their own closet.
Really?
Like he fought when all those things I told you weren't legal were legal. Ball shots, foot stomps to the head, and so
Anybody
he won.
die?
No one's died in a UFC event. There's been, I think, maybe like under 5 in the last 10 years who amateurs. There's a lot of like you've heard of backyard wrestling,
Yes.
which is like
Wasn't that where that one guy
insanity?
Who was the guy that was like the champion at that hasn't done that well in MMA?
Oh well, let me see. Well, Brock Lesnar. Well, there was a guy, Bobby Lashley. He came from the WWF to MMA, but
This guy was a strictly backyard fighter.
oh, I don't know. I mean,
He became a star, and then he got it when that first. Because remember,
Kimbo Slice.
There he is.
Well, I don't think he liked getting hit for real. I mean, and when he fought, if you ever look up Kimbo's best fights on YouTube, he had a gang of about 20 huge black dudes who anytime Kimbo would start to not necessarily lose, but lose the upper hand, they'd step in and go, "Oh, you stepped on his foot. That's illegal. We got to restart." So he had
Really?
and then
You should have him on the show and talk to him about that.
Well, I don't, but it's crazy. That would probably get the most views ever.
Here, him coming out.
Kimbo Slice. I mean, he's an internet freak. You get the UFC fans; they'll listen. I mean, Duncan actually gave me great advice of it's not just about getting someone who has, say, 100,000 followers on Twitter. You got to get people who listen to podcasts, like someone like Kimbo Slice.
Right.
His fans probably listen to Rogan's podcast and Duncan's and Ari's and your fans. I mean, this will probably rival Tawny Kitane's.
I'll bet you not, because I don't think we get that many. I think that I have some hardcore people that really like what's going on, but I'll also say this: we do not get the numbers of like Duncan or anybody like that.
Yeah, but you have your fans. I would say almost exclusively listen to podcasts. Like I don't know if like David Arquette, he's not on Twitter, he's not on Facebook. He basically said I got bummed out at people talking bad about me and my family, so I just don't even do it. So there was really, I mean, I promoted it as best I could, but
right, he didn't get many people to
he got he's probably in high middle of the pack in terms of all-time views.
How many listeners do you get like a show?
I mean, on SoundCloud, I don't know how to measure it on iTunes, but on SoundCloud, which gives you detailed numbers, like Tawny Kitane's over 2,100, everyone else is right around 500. There's one Danish and O'Neill UFC podcast. It's got about 1,100.
Really?
So, I think it's probably similar on iTunes. She probably had the most by.
Yeah, it's good. Danish and O'Neill, Jeff Dennis and Ryan O'Neill. If you're not familiar, I know they've been on this show
a couple times.
But I'll tell you, those guys are really talented. And I'll tell you, I think they've got something really big happening. And recently, I asked them to direct our Big 3 project that we're finishing up with. And I'll tell you something, I've never been more excited, because these guys, they know, let's say, the world of Don Barris. They were huge fans of the Ding Dong Show. They would always listen to the Big 3 podcast and make comments to me. And I thought, wow, these guys would actually be perfect. They walked in and they've been great.
Oh, they're probably, other than you and... I mean, maybe I'm missing one or two names, but definitely 2 of the top 5 funny guys up there, man, in terms of just funny.
Hell yeah.
So that's the kind of like gets me a little like not bummed out, but when I see them not getting great spots or whatever, and I know there's behind the scenes politics and.
Well, but they refuse to take any spots at all. Like, I guarantee you, if I said, hey, I want better spots, I go up there and there'll be 4 people. You've seen it. There'll be 4 people in there. I'll still do an hour, and I'll keep those 4 people there. And then we get other people to come in, because I usually get something crazy happening.
But
if I ask for better spots, I guarantee you I'd be wiped out of there.
Yeah, I mean, it's I appreciate the job Tommy has from the standpoint.
Oh, I think he's got the toughest job ever.
Oh yeah, basically your job's to tell hundreds of comics a week. No.
Yeah, and I think that they all come in there thinking that a lot of them, they're much better than they are.
Oh yeah, I mean,
And you gotta cut it off somewhere. And in his mind,
I get that you have built up a self-defense wall. I mean, I was there one night when like 3 A-level comics were giving him shit. Well, I want to go next. And then the next guy came in. Well, I want to go on now. And then the third guy, and these are guys who get killer spots. It's like, okay, this is a tough job. I mean, I can imagine what shitheads like me,
Why would you call yourself a shithead?
Well, I'm hitting them up for, hey, I want to get in. And then so it's a tough gig. I'll give him that. I mean.
Well, I'll tell you, I think that the way you've done it is in a great way, because I think that your name has become something golden there. People look at you. I mean, you started out with the band. I mean, I think that opened doors for you.
Oh, sure.
People, and now with the roast battle, I mean, now because you consistently get laughs on that. You consistently get laughs.
It's, I try, I don't want to bomb in that room.
No, you don't. And that's pressure. And you're doing it in front of Jeff Ross, who actually is trying to make projects happen.
Oh, he's great. I mean, even I was, you have to get a laugh in that room, as it's you have to really amp up anything.
Yeah.
And, I say some pretty wacky things along with Whitney, and
now she's your business partner, right?
To be honest with you, and I don't know how this makes me look as a comic, but I was running out of things to say. To appear racist and to try and be funny. After about 8 months, I was like, I'm out of. There's only so many ways to say it. You
know what's funny? This is what I've found very funny about that whole thing. Here you are. I've never heard you say a racist thing in my life, but yet it's like you say it all the time almost.
Well, I mean,
you're really a good actor.
Well, I was raised by a black man.
Were you?
I'm Leroy Prince. He was. My dad was away on business a lot, and he was like the butler, I guess. Butler's kind of a dismissive term, but yeah, that's what he was, I suppose. And so I was down with the brothers. That's why I'm so comfortable around gay people, is because my mom.
Because you're gay.
No, I'm not gay. I like chicks, girls, big tits, and
yeah, I've seen that. But you have had actually some sort of sexual encounter with some real slobs.
Well, I back in the day, and by that I mean last week. I'm like kind of pattern my womanizing or whatever you want to call it after like David Lee Roth. He was just like he'd hit anything.
Would he really?
Just for the laughs. Now here's a guy with access to the most beautiful women on earth, and I think he kind of got this perverse pleasure out of sleeping with a 300-pound woman. Like, it was funny to him. I take it you don't subscribe to that.
No. I honestly, I'll be very honest with you. I think that anytime anyone shows any kind of appreciation towards me as a man, I'm honored.
Yeah.
And I never try to hurt anybody's feelings at all. I just never have. So, I'll tell you this: if I'm there masturbating, I'm not thinking of a 300-pound woman.
See, I do.
Do you really?
Yeah. I mean, why stop it in real life? Take it to that next level, even, in your jack off thoughts.
I can't do that. That I can't do.
I mean,
But I can find just about anything in a girl. Anything in a girl. And I can honestly say there may be only 2 women in my life that I've ever not regretted, but like kind of felt like, okay, I wouldn't want to redo that one.
Well, I mean, I probably got a few more than that, but
right.
But on the DL, I don't think there's anything wrong with that. Like, like the Rosenberg brothers, if that could have remained quiet, why not? I'd have them over again.
They were definitely very fun people.
Oh, they're great.
They made it very plain that they were there for one thing.
To look down at your pee-pee and see both of their heads down there, I mean, it was just the greatest visual ever.
You know where those two girls came from, the ones that I was talking about? When I used to be a DJ and I DJ weddings, there's a look, and I can always look at a woman and find something good about them. Either if it's something that they're wearing, something can arouse me. And that has happened a couple times. You probably never DJ because all it'd be is like 80s hair bands.
I mean, I think I could be. I could do an iPod shuffle at a house party. I think people would be pleased.
You think so?
Well, it's not just 80s metal. Like I like a guy like, say, Wang Chung, who's a big act on Geffen,
Was.
Well, yeah, was. Oh, I know. Not
in the
anymore.
80s.
The Village People. I mean, if you don't listen to the Village, if you don't see the Village People and you just listen to their songs, that's great pop stuff, man.
Oh, I completely agree. Well, if you look at this, there was a time that the Bee Gees were the most hated band in the world.
Right.
But they were so popular, that's why they were hated. You go to a wedding now and somebody puts on Staying Alive, the dance hall fills.
Oh, yeah. Well,
So it's just, I think mainly it's familiar music. That's what I look at the BKO. I think that we kind of like take songs that are pretty popular.
Oh, yeah. I mean,
because there's nothing better than when I'm in the BKO, the Barris Kennedy Overdrive, and I let people sing along with me, and they do.
Oh, they love it, man. I mean, I really think it's the only thing that could close out the night.
With that kind of energy, absolutely.
I mean, they've already been beat to death with the bad comedy stick.
God.
So,
and I'll tell you, it seems like some nights it's like the way they schedule that show is like, okay, you want people gone. Okay, well, we'll put up one person. Okay, that person hasn't chased them out. Well, this one will. I really think that sometimes that's the way it is, and then I follow that.
See, I don't. To me, it would just make more sense of, okay, late night spots for the most part, the crowd's dead, or why not give a guy, I don't know, a shot if he can make them laugh? Maybe I don't know. You're completely correct about let's get him out of here.
I think that's the way it's scheduled. Like let's get rid of these people. All right, we'll put up a couple people that might not hold the crowd that well.
Well, it's like my ex-girlfriend before Gail was she does concerts for Live Nation, like these huge, massive concerts.
Really?
The radio station concerts. And I would always notice they would put like a kind of a shitty act on last, like William Hung, that one year he was hot. And this was when Kiss played and the Bee Gees, and it was a great bill. And I'm like, why are they putting him last? And they're like, well, everyone wants to go home fast. And I swear to God, as soon as he hit the stage, and he was out of his mind, he didn't know where he was. I've never seen an arena empty out so fast. I mean, I kind of got, but they wanted to go home. Like,
right. They were just looking for a reason to get up.
It just kind of bums me out, late night audiences, specifically at the Comedy Store, kind of, it's like they want them to leave.
Yeah.
So, and then
I've noticed that.
And if you listen to the podcast I did with Skylar Stone, I was saying there's no one on earth who could hold a crowd like you late night.
Who's Skylar Stone?
He was the guy I had on maybe a previous episode last week, and he doesn't go to the Comedy Store a lot. And I was saying you have to come late night to watch you.
Oh, he was the guy that said all I do is crowd work.
I mean, I guess that was his take, but
really? Do you think people look at me that way?
I don't. I told him I thought you were like Ian Bagg from the standpoint of you guys, and Ian's like one of my favorite comics, do like a 50-50 blend of crowd work material. I mean, you have to at that night.
Right, because you play what the crowd's giving you, and then you bring it in and you sell your bits.
Yeah, I mean, you just can't go, sit there for, 15 minutes. Hey, so how about this Obama guy? They'd walk out and like
exactly
take the Concorde to get out of there. So there's no one on earth who could hold a crowd at the Comedy Store like you.
All right.
And I'm not just kissing you. A lot of people,
I know you're not. You've seen it.
I mean, I've been accused of being a man in the middle on many things.
You mean riding the fence?
Well, I like to, keep a low profile.
You know what? And there's nothing wrong with that, because I'll tell you, as far as things go, you know, I look at this. You never know. The reason that I go up late, I just don't want to cause any controversy. I just want to stay away from as much controversy as can possibly be.
I mean, didn't you tell a great story? I think I'll jog your memory that you got into an argument with someone on a show, and then like a couple shows later, a different show, you were up for the gig. And
you want me to tell that story?
I mean, if you don't have to mention any names, but yeah, it just goes in line with what we're saying.
No, when I first started, I was actually stealing the role of the MC during the potluck at the Comedy Store. Now, at the Comedy Store, I had just gotten in there. You know, I hadn't been there very long. And one of the things that was said, you put these people on the list on, and that's it. Well, there was a bunch of people that used to come up from the La Jolla Comedy Store. And I thought, oh. And they'd always want to go on, and I liked them, and so I'd put them on. But I try to separate them instead of putting up 5 people that drove up from La Jolla, because my thought was, oh, the person that was supposed to be next that's on the list, if 5 people go up before him, that's going to get back to the owner, and I'm going to lose anything I have there. That was my feeling, and I still feel that I'm right. Well, there was one guy, kind of a known hothead, that would start complaining to me. And he'd like get in my face and go, fuck you, dude. You come up here, I give you spots. Fuck you. I remember that whole thing. And then I remember when I kind of learned how to do audience warm-up, it was the only money that I was getting in that could pay for anything. And I remember I was going up for a show. And at the time, I had a pretty good resume, and I got letters of recommendation from Ben Stein, Jimmy Kimmel, and these guys are saying unbelievably nice things. So I had this resume, I had letters of recommendation, and the guy who was at this show, he would actually tell me, oh my God, I've never seen anybody with a better presentation. And they said, well, you just got to go through one guy and we'll get you in here. Well, it was the one guy that I had the problem with.
I mean, what are the odds?
Well, I would even bet that guy was told to drag me through shit.
Right.
And he did that on purpose. So, and make it even worse. But that reminds me of another story. The only time, and I've learned from this lesson, I was working at a hotel when I was going to school. I was a night auditor at a hotel. It's funny, on the back TV, there's a Domino's commercial. I had a job at Domino's in the early evening, and late night I had a job as a night auditor at a hotel. And then through the day, I had classes. There were days that literally I was scheduled to be going somewhere, or I was supposed to be there in class, at work, for 24 straight hours. So my schedule was crazy, and I just wanted to do it. And I was working at this hotel, and it was run by a husband and a wife team. They were the managers of it. And I remember the woman there just would always come over and visit me, and it started out innocently enough. She'd bring her daughter, and her daughter really liked me, and the daughter had cerebral palsy, and it was like one of those things, and I really liked the daughter, and the daughter thought I was funny, and she would tell me, oh my God, she doesn't respond to anybody this way. So I think because of that, I think she was in a loveless marriage. I think she was trying to get out and figure a way out. Remember one night she came up to work, and she said, how would you feel about me if I left my husband? I said, well, I don't know. But one thing led to another. She left her husband, and things happened. And
what kind of things?
you know where you put this thing inside a woman's pee-pee place?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. If you've never done it before, when you put it in, the muscles start to contract around the penis. It really feels good.
I mean, I've done it a few times.
You have? Isn't it cool?
That's the best.
It is the best.
No rubber, too. Oh.
Well, anyway, so I really learned that there's no winning in a situation like that.
Right.
And I decided after that, never fuck with someone's woman.
Oh, that's my number one. It's my only rule.
Even they were broken up and I did it. I remember one night he came in drunk. So, you think you're pretty funny, huh? And I remember his thing was because it's kind of what you and your big cock think you can get anything you want. And he took a swing at me, and I jumped over and I left because he brought a couple boys with him in the middle of the night. He was drunk. I'll never forget that. And I realized that's not a cool thing to do. It doesn't pay off.
It never does.
Mm-mm.
You know, because usually the girl comes to.
They're just looking for an escape, and that's what eventually she did. I mean, she was just looking for an out, and nobody wants to leave a relationship that they're in unless they have something else to go to.
Oh, absolutely.
I think that everybody kind of does that to a certain extent, or they want to explore somebody else. So,
well, it's that's why.
I got to tell you something. I'm really sorry. I know this is my first time on the show, and
I love it, man.
We watched a double overtime Kings game before this, and I came here. I was exhausted, and I'm still exhausted. So I might not have the liveliness that I normally do on a podcast. So I hope you understand at least.
Well, like the Rat song says, you'll be back for more.
I was going to quote that too, but I didn't.
It's, I could talk to not just hours about comedy, but music and just the LA scene.
Yeah.
Just your history of, working at the Tropicana, which I think is where we first met, although we didn't really meet. Because it wasn't Johnny Cocktails as the MC.
Wait a minute. Let me ask you this. Is this going out live?
It is not.
It is?
It is not.
Then why did somebody just put an Instagram back for more, as Rat would say?
Oh, because it's I have a running theme here. I put out a tweet saying "Simply Don 1 is coming on," and hopefully, if it goes well or something like that, he'll be back for more.
Oh, okay, I see that. But that just weirded me out because you kind of just said that, didn't you?
Yeah, no, it's when I get my shit together, hopefully at some point we'll have video and we'll be live.
Because I'll tell you, as I was saying to you before, all that first realm, they just did a podcast. Well, now to kind of put your name out there, you almost have to go to video because there's so many podcasts out there.
A lot of bad ones too.
Oh, because they just don't know what they're doing. They have nothing interesting to say, but there's so many out there.
Well, I wanted to before I hit video, and I really want to take calls because I think that's what I would excel at is the improv of phone calls,
right?
But I want to hone down my interviewing style a little better.
No, absolutely, and that's the thing. And then you build up a studio a little bit here.
Yeah,
that'd be great.
So hopefully you'll be back many times.
I would be more than happy to. Like I say, we've got to. I still want to do this because one of the great offers that I had, and we never took him up on it because it was at a time that our guitarist did the Barris Kennedy Overdrive.
Which one? Hatchell?
What was his name?
Snake Hatchell?
Snake Hatchell. When he was in, there was a band that came to watch us, and they wanted us to open for them on the road.
Right.
And they were dead serious. And the guy kept calling. The manager of the band called me one time and said that, but I really love to open for a real band. And I think I could do it. I think that we could do this whole thing and get it out there and get laughs.
On the right crowd. But when we did that show at the billiards hall and it was an all black crowd.
Right.
I remember I'm just talking to myself going, this is not going to go over well. And they loved it.
Yeah. And also the time that we did the thing opening for Rick Ingram's show.
I missed out on that. I think the great Pete C was
really.
I had a gig, I think, a Deuce Bigelow gig.
And well, anyway, we went there, and at first the crowd was like, "What the fuck is this?" But by the end, I just said, "You know what? I'm not going to go half-assed. I'm going to rock the hell out of this. I'm going to put energy in this," and that's what I did. And I think people loved it by the end. So,
but that's what makes it great. Is like the people who do get it go. I mean, you're out of your minds. It's lip syncing perfectly.
What?
I mean, out of your mind, like going like
singing.
Singing, and Mary Jane is great on the bass, and then obviously at an incredibly
so funny. Every time I look out at the crowd, I'm going like a maniac. You're drumming like a crazy fool. But yet most eyes hone in on Mary Jane playing bass.
Well, she's there's few beautiful. And
She is beautiful, isn't she?
and got a great, very funny too. So
Yeah.
that's usually the pretty girls aren't that funny, but
Nope. And she's very lucky. She's very lucky, and she's a very hard worker. I'm very glad that, she has become like a producer on all my podcasts, and people have really accepted her, and I love that. I mean, it's a very nice thing for her, and I'm very happy for her because she deserves it.
Well, she's great. Like when you are on stage and she gathers everyone for the band and gets the sound guy and the lighting guy. I don't think people really realize the work is involved just doing the band.
Right.
Willie Hunter usually is great with the choreographed, the light things.
There's lighting, there's all this stuff, and to have somebody good. And it's nice that some of these younger guys, they want to be part of it. But so maybe we'll do that tonight. Oh, this isn't going out live.
Well, I could put it out tonight, but you're right. I went through. I'm still learning, to be honest with you. And I look at you and like Dean Del Rey as my podcast
really
mentors.
Really understands it.
The first month I did this, I think I taped about 15 of them.
Really?
And I thought, and it was a big mistake looking back now. I thought, I'll just release one every Monday because I wanted, like you said, release it at the same day. And then it was starting to hit me. Well, Sandy was on one episode and he was plugging a show that happened 2 months ago. And so then I thought, well, I'm just going to release it the day of,
Well, there's got to be a fine line. You can sometimes tape things but you should say that to whoever your guest is.
Right.
Hey, there's going to be a show this Monday. This one will be out a week and a half from now. So if you have any gigs, and so they at least have an idea.
Like when, like you could plug the Ding Dong Show this Monday.
Right. Every Monday night, 10 p.m. You can always come to the Ding Dong Show. And we're still taping those podcasts. And so we've got a whole backlog. And who knows, maybe I'm going to have to put them on my podcast network. But we were working with something, and I don't know if that's ever going to work out again. So we'll see what happens. But every Monday at the Comedy Store, you can come at 10 p.m. and see a show that's, pretty cool. I think that people, if they get it, they really get it, and they really have fun because you will see the same faces there every week.
That's great. I was telling someone the other night, it's one of the few nights at the store where you see actual repeat business.
Yeah.
And it's the longest running show at the store, which is crazy. Which is not crazy, but the hundreds of thousands of different shows that have been there, from the shitty bringer shows to the good shows.
Right.
Yours is
the longest running, because I really claim that was part of the beginning of it. It wasn't called the Ding Dong Show at first. It was with Perry and Mole and a bunch of other people at the time, but it was under the same premise, very colorful people, and I'm at the head of it. So,
and that's a special talent, just to rein in the different personalities. And when I say different personalities, I mean, you've got, someone like, say, the Armenian comedian. He's a different temperament than, say, Brian Cosme.
Yes.
I like the new guy, the guy who doesn't say anything. Ernesto? Armando? He's great. He's like the chief from Cuckoo's Nest.
Yes.
He just sits there with this look of, I've never seen a look like that on someone's face, where the lights are not on and no one's home. But he's great.
And he is great.
You make him funny.
And that's the thing.
And Schizo is great in his role. And
the schizophrenic surfer. And you know what? He's getting a pretty big fan club. People are really liking him, which is crazy. And all I want him to do is tweet more.
No, that was a question, and this is part of my naivete. I don't know if I should ask you off air or not.
You can ask me. You know what? Ask me 3 questions on it. How much time do we have left?
I stop when it gets boring.
Okay.
So,
How long have we done?
Let me get up.
Let me get up. Make you do that.
Oh no! Let me get up. Holding my Mike Knuckles, you can get coming soon. We have done an hour and 9 minutes.
Well, you know what? Why don't we do this then? Why don't we? You ask 3 questions. 3 questions of anything you want, and I'll answer that. and then I'll give a couple plugs, and
you'll come back for more.
I'll come back for more. Absolutely, just like Rat said.
Right. Well, this is my first question, and like I said, I guess I asked you before. You're one of the few guests that I respect so much, and I will do the same.
Thank you.
Same manners with Mr. Piercy. I did it with Tawny. I said, "Hey, listen, is there anything you don't want to talk about?"
Right.
The name of the podcast is Inappropriate, Earl, so I like to ask inappropriate questions.
Right.
And but Schizo's tweets, does he? Is that really him tweeting?
Yes, it is,
Because
he's been forced to do it. He just doesn't get the whole thing. Why do you ask that though? I retweet everyone that he tweets.
Oh no, I know, but the original tweets, they're so in his character, you almost think that he's not smart enough to tweet like that. Like the misspellings, it's almost like the misspellings are perfectly placed, and it's so good you don't know if it's like a lot of people ask me about Windy City Heat. They're like, he can't, like, Skylar, he's like, oh no, that guy knows. I'm like, no, he doesn't. Like,
he does and he doesn't. He's been told, but here's my theory on Windy City Heat. I won't even mention the guy's name, so it gets back to him. But here's a guy that wants to believe. He wants to, and instead of looking at the negative, he looks at, hey, for God's sake, how many people do you know come out to LA, try to become a comic, try to get in a TV show or a movie? How many people do you know like that? Just about everybody. And how many people fail at that? What do you think the percentage of? This guy was the star of a movie that people really enjoyed.
Oh, it's an amazing
yeah,
movie. I'm going to turn the channel.
So anyway, the point is that is he real? Absolutely. I just don't think he wants to believe the negative.
Because I think people like outsiders who might not be familiar with the whole arc of this guy has to know 5 minutes in. This isn't really like, who would believe Dane Cook's the casting director?
Well, he didn't know who Dane Cook was.
And
anyway,
Daly.
in the realm of that, see what you didn't know and what I had to explain to him, Dane Cook wasn't his real name. That's his stage name. His original name was, I can't, whatever it was in the movie.
Oh, I forget what his name was.
Yeah.
But then Carson Daly comes in, and it's like, I think
Carson Daly was real.
But I think like an outsider watching this goes, he must know that's Carson Daly. He's not coming in to read.
Well, but he came in and his name was Carson Daly. The other guy, Dane Cook, changed his name because there was his real name. It was taken by SAG already, so he had to have a different name. So he changed it to Dane Cook. And after he did that movie, he started doing stand-up.
Yeah, I think
that's
worked
what
out.
Perry's believed, and that's what he was told, and that's what he believes.
Because I'll never forget the first time I met Perry was at Dante, who you have a long affiliation with.
I like Dante.
Grew up at the Comedy Store.
As a matter of fact, there was 3 people that worked there at the Westwood Comedy Store, and 2 of them became part of the Windy City Heat thing, and Dante didn't, but he was there and saw the whole thing start.
But I met, I met Perry at the Canoga Bowl, which was a room Dante would do every Tuesday night, and Perry came up to me and he gave me his business card and said he's trying to make it and some spiel, and I was like, who is this guy? And then that's the guy from Windy City Heat, and then I saw it, and then I think I met you maybe about a year or 2 later. When I started comedy, the store was the first place I went to. I actually paid Dave Tyree to write like 15 minutes of jokes for me. I'm embarrassed to say that now, but
Dave Tyree wrote a lot of bits for a lot of people.
But I looked at the other day. I looked at the 3 pages of jokes he wrote for me, and I didn't know at the time. But I think they were all stolen jokes.
They may have been.
Well, anyway, that's another story.
Well,
But yeah, I found the store so crazy. I just started. I went elsewhere, and then when I started coming around again, is when I started heckling you and Brody, good naturedly, of course. I would always make sure it was cool, and then that's how you and I met.
Exactly, and then you took over for Brody when I could no longer get along with him.
But yeah, you.
That's what happens in bands.
All right, let me think of one more question. Everything I wanted to ask. I mean, you've got such a history there. I don't know. It's not really. Who are your top 5? I'm going to go off the board. Non-comedy. Top 5 guitar players of all time.
See, that's a tough one for me because I'm more into bands, and I probably couldn't.
Then let's do your top 5 bands of all time.
Top 5 bands? I think.
And not in order, like,
well, I can tell you, I could probably say this. I think that there is no band in my mind that could ever come close to the Beatles.
Oh, yeah.
They were a perfect mix of rock, pop, mellow stuff. They really did it all. And I think that, and you look at the Beatles, they were a boy band when they started. Yeah. Then they became one of the most creative innovators in all of music. And it's just, there isn't really many songs that I don't like by the Beatles. I have, on my iPod, I have every single Beatles song in chronological order.
Would you say Lennon and McCartney primarily are the greatest songwriting duo of all time?
I think that they will go down in history is like Bach and Beethoven and things like that. Oh, yeah. I think they're that great. But I also think that people like Bernie Taupin and Elton John, also unbelievably great writers. And is the Elton John band a band that, most people don't realize, and I didn't realize until I started studying music a little bit, how great Elton John stuff was in the beginning.
He's awesome.
I mean, I would have to at least say Goodbye Yellow Brick Road is one of my top favorite albums of all time. It's one of my favorite albums of all time. But
what is your favorite album of all time?
It's hard to say because I can't even tell you my favorite Beatles album, but it would have to be something there. If I was stuck with 5 bands that I'd have to listen to, and that's all the music I could have, but anybody, like for instance, if it was the Beatles, I could have their entire collection, anything that Paul McCartney did, anything that Ringo Starr did solo, even Pete Best would be put in there. But I'm saying, obviously, I think the Beatles. I might go with Elton John because he has such a great, vast amount, and I'm telling you, it might be, I'll say this too. I think Dr. Dre, if you put, and the way I've done it, because on my iPod, I put anything Dr. Dre produced.
Right.
And I put that in chronological order, all of his songs. I might take the Dr. Dre production songs. I might even go with Pharrell, because Pharrell has done so many different types of music. But again, that's producing, and it's not a band, but he's done so much music. I might even put in like the Eagles. I just, there was a time that I thought that Don Henley on solo was spectacular.
Oh yeah, Boys of Summer.
Right. I'm trying to think what I want, all that kind of stuff, but I'm trying to think, I don't know. It's a tough one for me to answer because every time I think of something, do you put Led Zeppelin in there? And I don't want to put all 70s bands in there. I don't want to do that. I don't want to put all 80s bands in there. So it's kind of, now who would you say your top 5 favorite bands?
Definitely Kiss. I just almost out of respect, I say them in 40 years to still be somewhat relevant in terms of touring.
Absolutely.
That's unbelievable to
Absolutely.
me. I'm not a fan of their merchandising, like the Kiss condoms and beer coolers. And
See, I am. That's the part that I like about them. I like that better than their music.
But you were a audience warm-up member, or not member, audience, the audience warm-up on one of my favorite videos of all time, the great song written by Desmond Child, my favorite songwriter, Crazy, Crazy, Crazy Nights.
Right. And I actually was part of the audience warm-up for that music video. Hold on for 1 second. So that was good. And I got to take a picture with Gene Simmons when he was underneath the stage. And I said, hey, can I just get a picture? And he goes, not now, dude.
Right.
Not now. But he later took with our tongues out. And I don't think he stuck it out very far.
He's a good dude. I had dinner with him once.
Did you really?
We walked into Jerry's Deli, and I was with my girlfriend at the time, and they knew each other because she used to manage Kiss when they were doing the convention tours. Or she managed the conventions, not necessarily Kiss. And we sat down, and it was Gene, Paul, and their current guitar player, Tommy Thayer, who dresses up as Ace Frehley. And
does he really?
Yeah, I mean, he had to reteach Ace the solos when Ace came back.
Jeez, oh man.
Ace was, doing his, solo shows and just playing sloppy, and Gene and Paul are a little more structured than he is, and so we're having idle chit chat, and my girlfriend Shelly says to Gene and Paul, "Well, this is the guy you should ask what should be on the box set," and they both looked at me like, "Who the fuck are you?" They didn't say that, but that's what their look was. Where we should ask you what should be on the box set. And I said, guys, I know what you're thinking. I'm the guy who's going to buy it. I'm not saying every song I told them that should be on that box set ended up being on it. So
was it really?
Yeah. Because I was like, listen, in the nicest way possible. I'm a huge fan, all that stuff. You gotta, know how to work a celebrity. You have to massage their ego.
Absolutely.
So
what song did you think should be on there that wasn't?
There's they have a lot of great demos from the 80s, really 70s as well. But there was a song called Sword and Stone written by Desmond Child, and it ended up being a hit for another band. And this German band called Bonfire, they did a cover of it. And you can get the Kiss version on YouTube. It's fully recorded. They just didn't release it. And it's a great 80s song. And, I was like, Gene, Paul, listen, big fans, all that stuff. You guys are legends. But no one wants to hear Rock and Roll All Night again. We've got it on 8 different albums. Cold Gin. Right. People want to hear the unreleased stuff. They had a couple songs they wrote with Bryan Adams on Creatures of the Night. Release that.
See, I would almost disagree. In a box set, and I get mad at people that put out best of CDs, and I realize never say anything. I remember when John Waite was on Jimmy Kimmel, and the guys in the band knew John Waite, so he was a cool guy, and they were talking. And I mean, some of the baby stuff that John Waite was part of was just spectacular. And one of the songs, they put out a best of album, and they didn't have the song Every Time I Think of You.
Right.
And I was like, that is just such a great song. And I was stupid enough that I asked him, I said, hey, do you mind if I ask a quick question? Why wasn't that on your greatest hits album? I don't know. I remember thinking, I'm the biggest asshole alive.
I don't think so.
But I really did feel stupid.
But I mean, to me, as just a fan, I love Springsteen's box set.
Which one?
Well, I forget what it's called. It's right. Let me see.
Is it the one with non hits?
Yes, it's right there. I can't.
Yeah,
it just says. But I mean, it is literally 5 CDs of amazing songs that not one was released.
Right,
and it's like.
And I think that, but Springsteen's to the point where he can do that. Kiss, I think that they should have because you can never put all the songs that were supposed to be hits. Now, I should sometime and I will do this later, I will call you and let you know how many songs I have in my Kiss folder. Probably far less than you do. But I would think that my list of Kiss is the best you could possibly do.
I mean, it's...
I'm going to send it to you, actually.
Well, please. I mean, I'm just more into especially with a band like Kiss, who, they've got like 7 greatest hits albums.
Right.
4 live albums if you count the symphony one they did. And it's like, I love Detroit Rock City. It's probably my favorite song ever.
Without question.
I've got it on literally 20 of your 30 studio albums, Gene. And so,
But if you didn't put that on there, and you put a box set out of the best of Kiss, I would be pissed.
I mean, I wouldn't, but
But you know what? What might be interesting is that you might take those cuts and put out live versions that had never been released before of the huge hits that they had.
Yeah, something like that I don't mind. Like at least with Kiss, they
By the way, I'm sure you've heard this album. Do you remember when they had it was a tribute album?
Kiss My Ass.
Kiss My Ass.
Like that was cool.
Mighty Mighty Boston's. But you know what my favorite song on there was?
What?
The Garth Brooks song.
Well, Hard Luck Woman.
Hard Luck Woman. He was great on that.
But only Kiss would play on their own tribute record. Like they're out of their minds.
Right.
I mean, no band on earth, would do that. And I actually like the Gin Blossoms. They did a great acoustic, and it totally works for Rock and Roll All Night.
Exactly. And I agree with you there, too. I love that.
Lenny Kravitz did Deuce.
Yep. That was
Stevie
good,
Wonder
too.
was...
Stevie Wonder was on that?
He might have been doing the harmonica.
Yeah.
But I love the voicemail of the Boss Tones. They did Detroit Rock City.
Yeah. Well, that's a little touchy subject with me right now.
Okay. Well, I just like the voicemail of the pompousness of Gene Simmons, basically saying, Megadeth's going to do this song. Pick anything else, and then they go into Detroit Rock City. I love Gene. I mean, just
a bit of an ego.
Bit of an ego. I argue with people a lot, and I'm his biggest fan. I don't think he's that great of a businessman. I think what he's smart is he never puts his own money into projects.
Well, that's what they say. You never put your own money in. You got nothing to lose.
But like his magazine tongue was awful. It was basically Maxim minus 100 pages, but with 40 advertisements for the Kiss beer cooler. And it was horrible. And his record label, he killed every band that was on Simmons Records.
You know what I love about you? As ridiculous as some of the music that you like, you will defend it to the end. Well, I think that's great.
Well, but I like when I listen to music, the few times I go to a movie now, I want to be entertained. I don't care. That's why I've always liked Kiss or Rat or Poison. Like when Poison sings Unskinny Bop, you don't have to go, oh, what's he talking about? He's talking about fucking.
Right.
And CeCe DeVille, I met one night at Mel's Diner. Very cool.
I met him all the time. He used to come over. I don't know if at the Tropicana. He was there constantly because his stepsister worked there as a bartender. And the sad thing is, I really, really, really liked that girl. She was so cool. She was so nice. And she worked at a strip club near Vegas. And one night there was a guy that got in a fight with a bouncer, came back, was waiting for that bouncer to come out, door open, opened fire. It was her. And she was killed. It was really, really sad.
I mean, yeah, no, I mean, that's
I'm glad that I ended at such a high note.
No. Well, let me take it to a better note. Like when I met him at Mel's, I'm a big Poison fan. I ran up to him and said, hey, man, I'm a huge fan. I loved your cover of Grand Funk's We're an American Band. And he's like, well, where'd you get that? It's not out yet. And I'm like, oh, fuck. I'm like, listen, I'm going to be honest with you. I illegally downloaded it. And I went to give him $1. And he's like, don't worry about it. That's how I get all my music, too. So I just love it when someone's nice to you. And
absolutely.
Gene and Paul were incredibly nice. It's funny. The biggest dick was the guy that's in the band now playing Ace. He was kind of like, I said, hey, man, I loved you in Black and Blue. And he kind of like, oh, I'm above that now. It's like,
Yeah, what have you done bigger?
Really?
You know, I'd say one thing. That's how I judge a lot of people on Kimmel, how well they treat me.
Well, yeah, because you're like, I don't mean this probably the way it's going to come out, but I don't like. They probably look at you as, oh, he's just a warm up guy,
Right? Exactly. And
which
anybody who pays attention and shows, because I do know this, bands especially have always come out and talk about how great I did, because I really get the crowd juiced up. And it's kind of hard to go from a show and then boom, come on, now let's go rock, come on. And it's hard. Anyway.
Well, yeah, because, the show ends, and then you got to shuffle the crowd out to usually the outdoor area, if it's like Judas
Right.
Priest or whatever,
Right.
Or the smaller area. And it's like, okay, get the energy back up for a rock concert.
Right.
Very few people can do that. But before we go, first of all, this will be the first of many appearances.
Thank you.
No, thank you. I know you're a fucking busy guy. I know the game, double overtime.
I'll make time.
I'm going to put this out tonight. I'm going to break the rules. So Monday, Ding Dong Show, anything special about it, or?
I think there might be, but I don't know.
Okay.
I don't know.
Monday night, 10 o'clock,
10
the
o'clock.
Belly Room. It follows Kill Tony. They just ducktails right into each other. It's the best show in town. I mean, I'm a very selfish person. I don't like watching comedy. I want
It's
to do
nice
it.
that Monday and Tuesday become something special at the Comedy Store.
Yeah, Tuesday nights is the roast battle, which is, you've participated in a few in terms of you haven't done a roast yet. There's possible one with Brody at some point.
I think he'll chicken out.
And, the two.
But also push Simply Down the podcast. I'm trying to do that every week. As a matter of fact, a little clip from today is going to be on there. And then, of course, my Ding Dong Show is going to come back. So, and the Big Three every Friday. Well, not every Friday, every other week. And in August 15th, if you're around, further details will be coming out soon. But come and be part of this. It's going to be crazy.
And on Twitter, you are?
Simply Don 1, and my Facebook is Don Barris.
And that's the number one, not
Number one, absolutely.
And where can people get Windy City Heat? Netflix, or is that not on?
It is on Netflix, but you know what? I think if you've never seen it and you just want to check it out, you've never heard of it before, it's on YouTube. Somebody put it up on YouTube, so the entire movie's on there.
Now, how do you feel about that as an artist? It's a great exposure, but you're not getting paid for it.
I wouldn't be getting paid no matter what, so
Okay.
I don't care.
All right, well,
I mean, as a matter of fact, fuck Comedy Central as far as I'm concerned.
Well, I may disagree with you there, just because I haven't been on it yet. So here's my man in the middle. We'll close it out with me being the man in the middle.
Well, thank you, Earl. I really had fun. This is really cool.
You are a icon up at the store, and in comedy in general, you've always been nice to me. You've frankly given me probably 98% of the stage time I've gotten there has been because of you. Wow. So I thank you.
Well, thanks, Earl. I'm glad we're friends, and it was nice things you said at the beginning of the show.
Oh, it's true. And
I gotta go get Mary Jane.
You got to go get Mary Jane. This is Inappropriate Earl with the one and only Don Barris. Does the warm up for Kimmel. You can see him at the Comedy Store, closing out the show every night. Monday night Ding Dong Show, 10 o'clock. This is Inappropriate Earl. We're on SoundCloud, and for you Steve Jobs nut swingers, you can still go on iTunes. Stephen Piercy from Rat, back for more.
I knew you were gonna say that.
Lay it down. We're gonna delve into the Desmond Child album Detonator. He'll be in this week, and thank you guys for listening. Leave a review on iTunes. I need to pump up the numbers, and we'll see you on the streets.